I am suspecting that things are going to be going south very quickly if this doesn't work out. If either Liam Lawson can't do what he's expected to do or does too much, then I think the future of Red Bull itself could be a little bit cloudy. Which is why the team will do everything and anything to make sure that that doesn't happen, or that it does happen, or doesn't do. Yes, you might be thinking that I am struggling to come up with ideas that have nothing to do with Red Bull in the F1 off-season, as well as struggling to talk, having recovered from a really major cold over the last few days just after Christmas. Yay. But the thing about this is that the team simply cannot stop generating news, even if it's in the middle of the off-season. This particular chestnut of news has to do with the likes of Liam Lawson, him being the successor of one Sergio Perez, and many people expecting that Red Bull will return to their old ways of being as ruthless as ever, just like how they were with Danny Kvyat, Pierre Gasly, Alex Albon, and Checo. Eventually. And before you say anything more, no, I am not forsaking Sergio Perez, because you got to look at what happened in 2022. The guy looked really, really solid, and the prospects were really good at the beginning of 2023. It's just simply the car went away from him and he just simply could not get it back. Right up until he got in Max's grill. From Monaco 2022, something changed between them, and seriously, the Dutchman really shoved his weight from that race onward. But no, we're not talking about Sergio today. We're talking about Liam. Is he going to succumb to the same thing, or is he actually going to prove the doubters wrong? Well, you see, it kind of depends. You see, I don't think the team can allow that to happen. Both for Liam Lawson not doing well enough to be able to help them in the constructors and basically failing like everyone else, nor actually outshining Max Verstappen, because if he does, then that might push their multiple world champion off to another team or out of the sport altogether. So Red Bull are stuck between a rock and a hard place, so Liam can't do too well or not well enough. He's basically just got to be Now, you might be thinking that based on my previous content, that I'd be cursing Lawson out for being chosen instead of Tsunoda. That would be extremely biased. And whilst it was a shame that Yuki didn't get a chance at Red Bull Racing, I do understand the reasons why. The reasons, as I've said many times at this point, is that Yuki wasn't chosen simply for the fact that the stars are not aligning with the Honda-Red Bull relationship. It's just not going in that direction. Whereas Liam, it is going in that direction because he is a pure Red Bull Junior driver. And also, he was just about close enough to be able to justify it in terms of pace when it comes to the races against Yuki Tsunoda, who is about to become the most experienced Japanese driver in F1 history. Let that sink in for a while. Not only is he going to be the most experienced Minardi-esque driver, now the most experienced Japanese driver. What does that say to you? But yeah, okay, whatever. Liam got the gig, let's just see what he can do. Him being the first purebred, homegrown Red Bull Junior driver since Alex Albon stepping up to the senior team. And then many people expecting the real spectre of the past of Red Bull Racing to come back round again, and Red Bull is quite aware of this. And you can tell that for 2025, the team are very much managing the expectations of them as a unit, as well as their car. Now, if you're an experienced Formula 1 fan, you might be thinking, oh, why are you listening to these news bits, Law? They're clearly sandbagging, they're limiting expectations, and that means that Lawson and Verstappen will be blowing everyone else out of the water with the RB21. I know that is something that is quite valid, and we won't know for sure until the first entrance of Q3 at Australia next year, but pre-season testing might be a factor as well. And you've also got to be considering that this is not what we usually hear from Red Bull Racing. Usually, they're either very quiet or they're quietly confident. Now they are quietly not confident, which is a little bit weird, because there are no silver linings for the RB21, even though they are quite clear as to what they need to do. But they're not going to be saying they are definite contenders for the World Constructors Champions like they have been for the last couple of years. This will be the first car to be developed without Adrian Newey at all. Granted, he might have seen very, very, very early sketches, and this is, in theory, an evolution of the RB18, but the development of what we will see at pre-season testing? No, Adrian has not seen that. Next year is not going to be a season where the team is immediately expecting to be glorious and having it served to them on a plate. In my honest opinion, this is going to be like a year of transition. Ferrari in 2007-8 or Benetton in 1997. They are moving from one era of their history into another one. The post-Verstappen era, even though Max is already there. I personally think that Red Bull is preparing for Max to leave the team at any moment. They do not want to be caught on the back foot because it could easily see them into a death spiral in which they might not be able to get out of unless they have a really clear succession path. And that is exactly what they're doing with Liam Lawson. And that is the topic of this video, based on the comments that I've seen, that I think Liam Lawson is simply too big to fail. They cannot let this experiment fall apart, nor can they actually push Max Verstappen out earlier than they would like. They would ideally like Max to see out his entire contract. If they can get him for another couple of years after that, then that's absolutely bonanza. But after that, just at least get him past 2026, Christian is probably thinking. Now, of course, all teams hope and aim to win the grand prize, or at least perform to the best of their ability, but when it comes to Liam Lawson, his future is very much of that being the next team leader. You've got to be thinking about this. The one to succeed Max Verstappen, wherever he goes. And when you look at Liam, you don't see a quiet soul who doesn't like taking risks. You see a man who has the qualities that the group loves. He's a have-a-go hero. That's exactly what Red Bull adores. People who are not afraid to go toe-to-toe in wheel-to-wheel racing, regardless of whoever you're contending. I'm looking at what happened with Liam and Fernando. They're not going to be going, I better be careful, he's a multiple-time world champion. No, he's in my way. Get out of the way! And also, Red Bull might be hoping he could be like Max Verstappen, who himself says that he is prepared to cross the line when it comes to breaching or bending the rules in order to try and get to the World Championship. That killer instinct, that little bit extra that gets you from being a very good driver to being great enough to win championships, especially championships on the bounce. It's aggression. That's what Red Bull wants. They want aggressive drivers, which makes it all the more confusing is that, well, Yuki's aggressive, he's punchy, he's also characterful, he's got personality, then why doesn't he get an opportunity? No. Liam, he has that as well. And he's also part of the Red Bull fold. We got to realise that it's Lawson's day today. As a result, I suspect that unless Lawson has a cataclysmic time of it in the RB21 and that he ends up being worse than Gasly was in his first 10 races with them, the team will be a lot more easygoing when it comes to his acclimation. And that might mean going against their aggressive desire. In my mind, it's like that last scene from The Incredibles, which is incredibly apt since Disney Pixar's Cars is one of Liam Lawson's favourite movies. You know that scene where Dash is doing the 100-metre dash and then the family's going, come on, you can do it. Oh no, don't do it too well. Don't win. Don't be conspicuous. No. Don't do too slow. You're doing yourself a disservice. Too fast. Too slow. Too fast. They want Liam to do well, but not too well. Yeah, Christian will just take him aside saying, come on, Liam, you don't want to start something right at the beginning of your career with Max Verstappen. I mean, look at what happened to Checo in 2022. That could easily happen to you if you put your toe out of line. But at the same time, I want you to have a go. Which is exactly what Helmut Marko has mooted in his latest comments, which outline what he expects from Lawson, that I will share with you now. But also take into account that Marko also said that out of the two drivers, Yuki and Liam, Yuki was the faster of the two, which is confusing, but hey-ho, it's about Lawson today, and this is exactly what he has to say about what he expects from Liam at Red Bull. He has to stay within 3/10 of Max in both qualifying and the races. That should be enough to score points in the Constructors' Championship. He will have to gradually improve, as much as he can, but always keeping in mind that he is currently competing alongside the best F1 driver. In doing so, he shouldn't get involved in the technical side of things, like setups and strategies, which other teammates have done in the past. Liam needs to accept that Verstappen is the best. We'll see how close he can get to him, but he shouldn't get into the car with the intention of beating Verstappen. That's what has gone wrong with all of his teammates. Now, doesn't that tell you a lot? That in 2025, for Helmut Marko, it will be a year where Liam basically just has to show up, drive the car, stay in his lane and shut up. Don't get involved with the car development. Let Max do his thing and, be within 3/10 or so, which is basically the same distance between Oscar and Lando at McLaren, and they won the Constructors' Championship, so no pressure there. Oh, but don't do too well and outshine Max Verstappen, so can you see the point that he might be in here? Also, pay attention to what Marko said. He didn't say 3/10 and maybe more. No, he said 3/10 at least. So, quicker than that? Even better. That's a really, really tall order. And considering that the only teammate of Max's at Red Bull who's been able to do that was Daniel Ricciardo, that is really, really big. The average gap for Gasly, Albon and Checo has been over half a second in qualifying, at the very least, in some cases 6/10. So it really strikes me as bizarre about what the team expects from Liam. Now, I can understand that many of you out there might be going saying, oh, come on, Lord, this is Helmut Marko. Why are you taking him seriously? And yes, you should be taking some of his comments and statements with a little bit of a pinch of salt or with some caution. But if there is one thing that he does have some good qualifications with, it's to do with the likes of the Red Bull Junior program, since it's basically his baby. He knows it inside and out, and he has picked some really good talent in the past, and the entire Formula One grid is populated with loads of Red Bull drivers and graduates, including Carlos Sainz, who he did try to bring back to the Red Bull Racing team, only for Christian Horner's motivator for Checo to then get in the way, stop the talks, and then Carlos goes to Williams, where I'm pretty sure he will do well in the fullness of time. So, we could have had Sainz and Verstappen. Helmut wanted to make that happen, but then we didn't get that because Christian wanted to have a go. But it does make you wonder in a way. Had we not had that whole debacle regarding the contract extension to try and motivate Checo, would his legacy be remembered a little bit more fondly, knowing that this was his final season and that, we wouldn't have that extra 2 years dangling over him and then Checo going, I'm not leaving. It just makes you think in a way. However, these comments are contradictory. Marko wants Lawson to patiently learn in the background, to not provoke the team leader, and recognise him as the best without question, basically emulating Gerhard Berger in how he views himself against Ayrton Senna at McLaren. This could be completely disproven if Liam Lawson and Max Verstappen's driving styles are actually kind of similar. If they are similar, like they are with Piastri and Norris, then okay, no worries there. Then Liam will be absolutely fine. And him scoring more than Checo did in 2024 could easily be plausible. Yeah, he might be at the back of the top 4 teams, but the expectations have been dialed back a bit because this is Lawson's first year. If he ends up 8th in the championship, that's nowhere near as bad as Sergio Perez being in the sport for over a decade being an 8th is. Or they could be putting up too much pressure for Lawson and setting him up for failure. Or they're hoping that Lawson will just wait his turn like a good boy and that his time will come when Max packs up his toys and goes home at the end of his contract in 2028. But I just think it's completely naive and misguided to think that this opportunity to drive for Red Bull Racing, Liam Lawson gets in the second car, his car, and then just being told, just get in it, don't talk to anybody, just let them get on with their job, don't worry about setup and strategy. Although it's been really proven that setting up the car correctly can really make a difference, what are you expecting Liam to do? Just basically just rock up and then drive the car and go home? Don't really socialize and engage with anybody? Well, what's going to happen when he does become the team leader and he's really not integrated himself with his crew, the mechanics, the staff, really getting himself embedded in the Red Bull culture? If that happens and Max leaves and he becomes the team leader, he won't have put any effort in. So I seriously expect that Liam will completely ignore that and he will drive absolutely all guns blazing right as soon as he gets there, or just so long as he doesn't crash into Max. But at the same time, if Liam does not meet these criteria, will the team kick him into the long grass within the season? No, they won't. So you could view these comments as empty threats or as a distraction. Because at this point, after what's come out and what's become really, really clear, especially with the situation with Ford, there is no way that Red Bull will demote Liam Lawson back to VCARB and keep him there like they did with Pierre Gasly and Danny Kvyat. They cannot afford to do that, because otherwise they will end up with considerable eggs on their faces. Because put simply, Liam is too valuable to the organisation. And the ideal pathway for Red Bull, especially after Checo's departure from the organisation, is for Liam to cut his teeth at the top team for a couple of years next to one of the greatest F1 drivers of all time, build up a really good relationship like Schumacher did with Massa, and whilst the likes of Hadjar and Lindblad get their act together in due course, the team will wait with bated breath to see what Max does with the 2026 car and the regulations in 2026 if Red Bull is simply not good enough to be going for the World Championship and it becomes quite obvious near the start of the season that Max isn't going to be getting his 5th or 6th title, then he might just call it quits, that he's lost his motivation and he wants to do something else in his prime. He will have left F1 before he turns 30 and then he can go to another discipline. And that'll leave Liam Lawson with all of that experience next to Max Verstappen to then take the reins and become the team leader. And then whoever wins against Hadjar and Lindblad can then go up to the top team. And then VCARB can then bring in the next set of recruitments. And then that means the Red Bull Junior program will be back in full working order, just like how they wanted to, just like how it was good in the 2010s. Liam Lawson has to stay in that second seat for a couple of years, and if Max decides to go and Liam hasn't quite cut the mustard, then maybe in 2027, Red Bull can have an all brand new lineup, a complete refresh in the post-Verstappen era. They can be ready, start anew, and see how they go from there. Maybe trying to claw their way back up to the top with new designers, who knows? Because ultimately, it's not about average pace solely, it's to do with keeping Max Verstappen sweet, and making sure that he stays as long as possible with that team, because he is a once-in-a-generational talent, and Red Bull captured him from a very early age, basically at the beginning of his career. And any team will want a piece of that, even if it's just for a couple of years. And Red Bull don't want that to happen. And the team would be foolish to not take heed of the words of warning from Verstappen regarding 2025, saying that the team needs to sort out its balance issues, and even goes into detail with the media and the public about what specific issues there are with the car, saying that it's something to do with the shakers and the hoops and the slow corners. If the team can't move forward, he says, he won't be world champion in 2025. Simple as that. His own words. And his threats, he said, to quit the team or the sport which circulated around the paddock this year, according to him, they were not idle bluffs. And you might be thinking, oh, come on, Law, he's only saying that because he's now won the World Championship, but these things did happen. In the heat of adversity and struggling, Max told the team that he cannot be driving over 100% to make up for the shortfalls of the car, that he would rather not think about the Hungarian Grand Prix, that being the lowest ebb of the team, when their brand new high downforce specifications simply did not work, and he had that really bad altercation with Lewis Hamilton. There were moments when Max was questioning his future with the team, but he did stick it out, he did believe in loyalty, and he wasn't one for snap decisions, but he will make decisions that are calculated. And this is something that Red Bull need to consider as well. So it's a really, really awkward tightrope. They thought they managed to get it off easy by getting rid of Sergio Perez, but with installing Liam Lawson instead, right now, then it sort of made you jump out of one frying pan and into an identical frying pan. So right now, anything the team can do to produce a car which can fight for world titles with Max and put the onus on him to win said championship is of the utmost priority. If Max were to lose it, Red Bull would ideally want him to say that it was simply down to him not being good enough and not the car's fault. Now, is this the kind of thing that Liam Lawson will abide by for the long term? No, I don't think so. It's become evident that in the last couple of years, Liam Lawson was burnt severely with the denial of him getting that full-time V-carb seat for 2024. What became really clear in Drive to Survive, Liam was really hurt by this. Like, he was angry. He wanted to prove himself. And therefore, he really dug himself into the preparation, the training schemes, all behind the scenes, all of the camera shots. It was all clear that Liam, if Daniel didn't live up to expectations, was going to be his replacement. And this is no mark of disrespect. In fact, it's actually really quite impressive, because we know that Liam is a tenacious one. And if he's given the opportunity to be a giant killer, he will kill many giants. Just look at what happened in Singapore 2023. He was the one responsible of knocking Max Verstappen out of Q3. He was the one that did that. Now, you might be saying, well, does it really matter? Because Max was going to win the championship anyway, and they all knew that Singapore was going to be bad. Yeah, okay, that's fine. But what if that were a situation where the championship did matter, and Liam decided to choose himself and his own success over his teammate or colleague within the Red Bull fold? If there is an opportunity, Liam will take it. And the prevailing sentiments from the Lawson camp, his family, are that of desire to prove themselves, and that everyone in his family has the same mentality as he does, that they will put everything on the line to see something through. And that was the case with his motor racing career. His parents and family sacrificed a lot to get him where he is right now, and now he wants to pay them back for that opportunity and get them back a house that they had to sacrifice for his F1 future and desire. Now, does that sound like the kind of person who will just be softly and not tread on Max's toes if given the opportunity? No. He will not do that. I do think that he will be able to show himself. And if he has the opportunity and he has the car that is clicking for him really, really well, he's going to want to prove that, hey, one day this team is mine. And I'm not quite sure where the future will hold for him, but I'm not going to be one of these people that will be condemning Liam Lawson just because Yuki Tsunoda didn't get the seat. No, I think Liam has a future in Formula One, absolutely. But I'm not quite sure how it's going to pan out. Will Red Bull allow him to thrive, or will he end up thriving too much and make Max Verstappen all that more irate that his teammate is getting in the way and not pulling his own weight and therefore compromising his own championship quest? And he might just go, you know what, I don't need this. I'm out of here. Basically, Liam might want to emulate what Daniel Ricciardo did to Sebastian Vettel, and when the car changed to the detriment of Vettel, Ricciardo thrived and flew. Maybe in 2026, Liam is hoping the same thing will happen, and he will be the one to take charge of the team and then quash the future of that team with Max Verstappen. And sure, if Max Verstappen decided to cut his time with them short, they would get a chunk of cash from him for breaking his contract, but Max isn't in this solely for the money. If he didn't love F1 anymore, he has said many times he would be prepared to walk away for any reason and would be prepared to dump a wad of cash if he has to at any time. And I believe that he would actually go through with this. And Liam knows this all too well. He wants to be a disrupting force, like I said earlier, a giant killer. Really bring glory back to New Zealand. There was a false dawn with Brendan Hartley. That didn't go anywhere in Formula One. In endurance racing, completely different story with Toyota. Bring back a world title to such a small country, and this is something that I think many people in that country will want to try and see happen, and that tenacity has paid off. It's managed to supersede Yuki Tsunoda, so now Liam is in the pound or New Zealand dollar seat, and now we can see what he can do. So at this point, I'm over the whole thing with Tsunoda not getting it. I'm just like, okay, Red Bull has made their choice. Okay, Liam, good luck to you. I want to see whether or not you can emulate what you did in Singapore 2023. If you can actually tread on the toes of Max Verstappen, give Red Bull a little bit of a headache, and a good headache, in that he is good, almost too good, and putting his mind out of the place that he's been prescribed for that place, and yeah, it could get really awkward. So Red Bull might be getting rid of one problem, but then starting up another problem if Liam ends up being too good. And then they're going to have to rein him back in. And then critics will be saying that he's being suppressed and that Liam deserves better. Oh dear, Red Bull can't get out of controversy, can they? Or alternatively, the team will be proven wrong and that once again, like history has shown us many times, they have promoted their junior recruits too early and they end up just being completely embarrassed. And then Mercedes will leapfrog them in the constructors and they'll end up fourth in the championship. Fourth. Yeah. Even though Max might still be a favourite for the World Championship, who knows? But I do think Liam is keen to prove people wrong, but I also feel like he's got a really good benefit that Red Bull simply cannot let him fail. Much like how I think Carlos Sainz will not want to fail when he goes over to Williams. And I think that really people should be giving him a lot more credit as well as the team, and that is not a complete condemnation of his career. To find out why I think that the relationship between this car and team and driver will actually turn out to be really good, go and watch this video straight after this one.